I invite you to close your eyes or allow them to go gently out of focus. We're going to begin by taking 3 deep breaths in your own time. 1 breath is to relax the body, and 1 deep breath to quiet the mind. On your next exhale, follow your breath down into your heart space. You are going to the place within you where spirit dwells. Breathing one with spirit. In your imagination, behold a starry sky. There is the darkness of space, pierced by the light of stars, farther away than can be comprehended. And beyond those stars are more stars we cannot see. Beyond solar systems and planets, there is still more dark space and more stars extending to an expanding universe. We are one with the expansive, infinite, and eternal Creator. In the coming silence, feel the power and presence of the divine Creator of the planets, solar systems, and darkness of space. Today, we give thanks for the divine creation of all life and energy. We give thanks to the one presence that empowers each one of us in a life adventure that goes to infinity and beyond. Amen.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to be talking about flowing in life, particularly around the teachings of Lao Tzu, whom I'm a huge fan of. And it's a story I heard recently that kind of illustrates the difference between not flowing and flowing. I heard about a fella, he realized he was speeding when a police car pulled up behind him. And he foolishly got this whim, who knows why, to try and outrun the cop. Bad decision. He finally realized it was fruitless, and he pulled over. He thought, boy, I'm in big trouble. And the cop echoed that. He said, mister, you're in big trouble. But I've had a long day. I'm tired. I don't really feel like fooling with you. You got 30 seconds to come up with an excuse. Otherwise, I'm going to arrest you. And it better be a good one. And suddenly it hit him. He said, officer, 3 weeks ago, my wife ran off with a police officer. I thought it was you were him bringing her back to me, and that's why I took off. The cop cracked up. He said, get out of here and slow down. So the first part of that was not flowing. The second part definitely was flowing. Isn't that right? And that's what Lao Tzu was all about. He was a legendary Chinese philosopher, considered to be the author of the Tao Te Ching, one of the foundational texts of Taoism. A great teacher and a rather mysterious figure. Very little is known about him. We know he lived between 5 to 6 centuries before Jesus of Nazareth and had some remarkable teachings that coincided very smoothly with things Jesus taught. Now, I'm a Jesus man. He's my main man, all right? I'm a huge fan. But I'm also a martial arts fan, and so with martial arts, you got a lot of great ones. To me, Bruce Lee will always be the legend. He's numero uno forever. I mean, you got Chuck Norris, you got Jet Li, you got Steven Seagal, all great martial artists, but Bruce Lee will always be number one to me. Well, Jesus is like the Bruce Lee of spiritual teachers to me. And so he'll always be my main man. But Lao Tzu runs a close second because just some incredible teaching that he did. In fact, I close every email I send out with a great saying of his, which is, those who flow as life flows know they need no other force. Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force. This has just been a tremendous inspiration, something I aspire to, that I can flow as life flows. And that's really all I need. So Lao Tzu, he emphasized the importance of flowing with life and living in harmony with the Tao, that is the natural order of the universe. The concept of Taoism is compared to a river where we do not hang on the shoreline, but flow with minimal resistance throughout our lives. And so we want to learn how to do that. So I want to talk this morning, flowing with Lao Tzu, 6 ways to make it happen. Number 1, let go of ego. Let go of ego. Number 1 way to flow with the Tao. See, ego is entranced with names and labels, isn't it? Democrat, Republican, you one of them? Because based on that label is how I'm going to relate to you or not. How sad that is, isn't it? That's how ego does. It depends on labels. It's just obsessed with labels. You Baptist or Methodist? Unity or you? Labels. Liberal or conservative? Based on that, we label, and that becomes the sum total of how we relate to one another. How many know that ought not to be? Because the fact is, there are things that Democrats can learn from Republicans and vice versa. There are things Baptists and Methodists can impart to each other. And liberal and conservative, all these labels have something to impart, whether we appreciate it or not. Because we're all connected, aren't we? We're all part of the greater whole. So why should we reject any part of that? Even someone who holds to very extreme views, which I find abhorrent. I don't need to completely reject them out of hand, but rather attempt to reach out to them and love them the best that I can. We're all connected, so we need to let go of the demands of ego, isn't that right? And the labeling that's so easy for us to do. Because how many know we're more than any of that? We're more than our job or our profession or our physical appearance or what we drive or our bank account. We're beyond all that ultimately, aren't we? As much as I love being a minister, and I love it so much, I realize I'm even more than that, and that's so much a part of me. It's more than my job. It's who I am. But I realize it even transcends that. I remember I was coming up with a personal mission statement. I was challenged to do that, when I was going through my courses for seminary, and develop a personal mission statement. So I crafted one which I thought was great, and ran it by my administrative assistant. I said, check this out. What do you think? She barely looked at it and said, this is terrible. I said, what are you talking about? It's a masterpiece. I've labored over this. She said, it all relates to ministry. Is that all you are, ministry? Aren't you something more than that as a person? She got me. Because I realized I was more than that. And so as important as it is to me, I'm even more than that, you see, more than what I do. And we all are. If we're not careful, we box ourselves into an ego-driven identity. We reduce our expectations to what the labels imply, which is very limiting. Because how many know ego has an attachment to titles and positions and things? There are people I've known, they lost their job and they thought, I'm a nobody. I'm nothing now. Why should that be? Because we're so much more than what we do. I've lost jobs in the past. I look back now and think, I'm so thankful I lost that job because it was holding me back from the fullest. One of my very first jobs I got fired from on my last day. We had a conveyor belt in the back that we were told never to ride. I thought, it's my last chance. Wouldn't you know, the boss comes right when I'm on that sucker. He said, all right, get out. I thought, I was leaving anyway. But how many know that wasn't a great blow to me because I was on my way out. But we're so much more than our jobs or things we do, aren't we? How many are goal-oriented people? I am, very goal-oriented. There's nothing wrong with that. But our efforts to reach a certain goal and apply value to something that ultimately may not be that valuable in the long run. Titles or status. And people labor and stress and strain to reach a certain status or title. And then suddenly they feel empty and think, is this it? Because there's so much more, isn't there, than even those goals that we seek to achieve. And sometimes attaining things like that can create a sense of high-mindedness that disrupts our sense of connection to others. They may not share that title or status or whatever it is. How many know our birth, our childhood, our adult lives, all of these are gifts, aren't they, that we need to cherish and treasure? Lao Tzu greatly esteemed the value of humility, which is generally not considered an American value, is it? Americans don't actually, we're not that focused on humility as something to attain. But Lao Tzu was. The scripture says, esteem others better than ourselves. What does that mean? It means that everyone I meet, they've got something I don't have. They have an understanding I don't have. They have an insight I don't have. And so I need to be open to everyone I meet that they have something that I need. That's humility, and that's esteeming one another, isn't it? Lao Tzu said, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. So very important. Let go of ego and the labeling and all that goes with it. Number 2, dare not to be first. Again, not the American way, is it, generally speaking? Dare not to be first. What does that mean? What sense does that make? We've got to be first in everything. Lao Tzu said all rivers flow to the sea because the sea is lower than all of them. Dare not to be first, in that attitude of receiving humility. That knowing that we're each a small part, each a small river flowing into the whole. And we share our joys together and we share our sorrows together. Jesus put it this way, whoever would be great among you, let them be the servant of all. Greatness comes from a servant's heart. True greatness doesn't come from lording it over others, but from serving others. So dare not to be first. to take the seat of less prominence, knowing that the blessing that comes from that can be extraordinary and can elevate you ultimately to getting the seat anyway, even if you weren't that crazy about it. Dare not to be first. Third point from Lao Tzu, quit trying to rush things. Lao Tzu said, he who rushes ahead doesn't go far. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far. Lao Tzu was a great proponent of Wu Wei. Say Wu Wei. Not woo-woo, but Wu Wei. Although woo-woo has its place. But we're talking about Wu Wei, which means an effortless movement like a well-rehearsed dance. That's what Wu Wei is. Maybe it don't look quite like that. But Wu Wei is like a well-rehearsed dance that we dance through our lives. Or as someone put it, it's being in the zone. How many know what it means to be in the zone? You ever watch a particular athlete? They testify they were at a certain point. I was so in the zone, I could not miss that shot. Even if I tried, it's like I couldn't miss it. I was in the zone. Nothing like being in the zone, is it? And that means to flow without excessive effort. I like to refer to the zone of blessing. This hit me last night while I was at Walmart, of all places. In PV, one of the worst Walmarts, one of the most crowded Walmarts on earth. And I was there, and my sweetheart, she likes purified water out of that station they got. She got a big jug. I fill it up. She doesn't care for the taste of tap water. And so I frequently will refill this jug for her. And I was sitting there, at the water station, filling the jug, and it just hit me. The zone of blessing is where it continually flows. I thought, that's pretty cool. I'll tell everybody that tomorrow. I got to realize that the zone of blessing, being in that place where where the flow is for us, isn't that true? In every possible metric. Where we live, our zone of blessing. There are people that believe that wherever they can go to next is where they're going to find blessing. It's never where they're at. You ever met anybody like that? I was raised by a woman like that. It was always going to be better somewhere else. The problem is she carried herself there. And therefore, without dealing with things in her life, it was never going to be different because we're in a geographical location change, you see? And I'm not saying there aren't times to move, obviously, because I did. But I didn't move because I wasn't experiencing blessing. There was greater blessing for me here, and it really has been. I'm in my zone here. In every conceivable way, I've been blessed. Carol and I have been blessed beyond our imagination. I know it ain't over yet. Now, if there hadn't been challenges, it looked like our house in Tennessee was never going to sell. Like we'd be living next door, it seemed like forever. But it ultimately did with your help and your prayer and your encouragement. And not long after that, we got another place that we love so much, that we're enjoying living in. And in every conceivable way, I've experienced a zone of blessing here. So, and there are times to move, but then there are other times you think, maybe it's not the location I need to change. Maybe it's me I need to change to experience the blessing of where I am. The zone of blessing where you live, in your job or profession, in what you do. Finding the flow of life in what you do. And it's not all about the money you make, is it? I've known people made an enormous amount of money that were thoroughly miserable and wanted to do something else. Finding the zone of blessing in what we do. Finding the zone of blessing in our significant other. Isn't that right? And that frequently involves making ourselves more loving and kind toward them. I'm on a crusade with Carolyn. I told her recently, I said, I think I'm taking you for granted. I'm going to step it up. And I'm going to really blow your mind with my love and devotion. And, where I've always gotten her door, when we go places, now I'm doing it at home. When she goes in the driveway, in the garage, I'm waiting there like a valet. To open her door and carry her stuff when she comes in the house. I said, I'm stepping it up. Because I don't want to take her for granted. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But we need to cherish and find the zone of blessing with those that we're with. Isn't that true? And we need to find that same blessing in our spiritual community. And I love this spiritual community. And if you're new here, I would love for you to make this your spiritual home. And I speak for my incredible staff and the marvelous volunteers we have, that we want this to be your home. But if in the final analysis, this is not your zone of blessing, we want to pray and bless you and help you find where it is. Because that's so important, isn't it? To be with a spiritual community where you feel like you fit, where you know this is my peeps. I mean, you know, this is where I need to be. Nothing is such an incredible thing. The scripture said Jesus came in the fullness of time. It was the right time, the right place. How many know that's being in the zone of blessing? I want to be there. How about you? I'm determined to be there. Turn to your neighbor and say, I'm determined to be there. The zone of blessing. In the zone, the world slows down. We become one with what we do with diminished effort. Give you an example. How many have ever tried to make yourself go to sleep? How fruitless is that, isn't it? Just go to sleep, go to sleep. And it makes it worse. There's no flow there, you see. I got some real insight recently from Arnold Schwarzenegger about being nervous, because I'm nervous just about every single time I come before you, of varying degrees. And Arnold said, instead of saying to yourself, I'm nervous, say, I'm excited. It changes that energy, you see. And so now every Sunday, I'm excited. I can't wait. And there's a flow in that, you see. Whereas nervous, it restricts flow. But I'm excited. That's a flow that you can sense. See, Wu Wei works by letting go, not holding tight. Wu Wei works by letting go. So often I want it now. But we restrict ourselves when we do that. We actually hinder the blessing from flowing. We need to be present in the moment and not rushed by our impulses. Isn't that true? A lovely song that I've carried in my heart for years just expresses it so well. It's, I'm never in a hurry, nor do I hesitate, although the world around me runs at a terrified pace. I want to live my life like that. I'm not going to be rushed. Also, I'm not going to hesitate when the time comes. I'm going to be in the flow, in the zone. Letting go doesn't mean everything falls in our lap. I'm not saying that. There are actions we must take. But it's a mindset, isn't it? It's action coupled with a consciousness of the natural order, or the Tao, the flow of the universe. Lao Tzu said nothing will happen earlier or later than it should. So quit trying to rush it. Number 4, embrace change. Embrace change. Lao Tzu said, new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. There's a line I like from the song by Semisonic, Closing Time. The context was very different. It's talking about picking up a date after you leave the bar. But, you know, there's still a good line in a different context. It said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Yeah. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. Lao Tzu said, water handles all obstacles with great ease, flowing toward its destination. An obstacle appears, water just flows around it. And it's not limited in its form. Water can take the form of ice, the form of steam, or simply the flowing material that we know, and handles all obstacles with that universal flow. Living fully means adapting to constant change, you see. Life is a series of chapters, but inertia can keep us from moving to the next one. We have a tendency, or I do, I don't know about you, of getting stuck in my habits. Anybody else like that? I tend to be a rut man. I want to eat at the same place, you know, I want to do the same thing. Carolyn really helps me there because she'll shake me out of that. I want to go here. I want to do this. I need that. A tendency about getting stuck. Viewing change as something dreadful instead of something wonderful. Lots of changes, aren't there? Professionally, in our relationships, And all of it can produce great growth if we allow it to. Change is the only way we grow, ultimately, isn't it? Number 5, be content with what you have. Be content with what you have. Rejoicing in what we currently possess while looking to even better in the future. I'm not saying we settle, well, this is my lot in life, like the caste system in India, where certain people are relegated to making patties out of animal manure and selling it, and that's their lot forever. I don't go with that. But I do believe in rejoicing with what we do currently possess. I think that's absolutely essential to do better in life. I believe it's impossible to have inner peace when we focus on what we don't have. Attaining things can create comfort, but not necessarily satisfaction and happiness. The number of people loaded with dough and miserable are legion. Lao Tzu said to lessen selfishness and restrain desire. Focus on what we have, because we have so much when we get to looking at it, don't we? It's interesting, throughout Scripture, you'll never find a time when God said to anybody, what do you not have? Not one place. Moses is an excellent example. God said, I'm going to use you to bring my people out of the bondage of Egypt. And he went through a laundry list of reasons why he couldn't do it. I'm not eloquent. I can't speak. I stutter. I'm nervous. And I went through this big list, and Yahweh patiently listening. And can you imagine him saying, oh, well, never mind. Yeah, I didn't realize all that. He didn't say that. I'll look for somebody else. He said, what do you have? He went through this, what he didn't have. And he challenged him, what do you have? He said, well, I got this staff I use in shepherding. Okay, we'll use that. And we'll use that to deliver your people from bondage. It's always, what do you got? Not what do you don't got. And when we realize what we have, then enormous things can happen, incredible things can happen with what don't seem like a whole lot to us, or maybe others. Focus on what we have. And don't take your significant other for granted like I was doing with Carolyn either. Love that person. Step it up in your love, in the things you say, in the little things that make all the difference. I know at times you just need to get silly and have some fun with the person you're with. You know, we tend to be too serious at times, don't we, with each other, focusing on all kinds of stuff. I remember the other night we were sitting watching television. I just decided, really give her a line, that would really freak her out. And I said, dear, my love for you is so strong. One day I fear I will simply fade away. I wonder what her reaction would be. Oh, that's so sweet. She never quit looking at the TV. She said, a bit dramatic, don't you think? She just put it back at me, man. But how many know we need to get silly sometime? Lighten it up a little bit. And let's not take each other for granted. Let's have fun together in all our relationships. Get a little silly and crazy. That's good for us, isn't it? Not all the time. There's times for seriousness, I know that. But at times I think we're just too serious. Number 6, and final one, accept your flaws. Accept your flaws. Lao Tzu said, when you accept yourself, the whole world accepts you. When you accept yourself, the whole world accepts you. Taoism stresses letting go of fighting our own nature. Like, we're out to get ourselves. That shouldn't be, should it? We need to accept ourselves, flaws and all. It frees us from requiring the approval of others because we've embraced ourselves, you see. And we don't need the approval of others. Imperfections abound in myself, and I embrace them. They're still good, but I'm going to get better. How many know our view of ourselves shapes the view of others, doesn't it? I might have told you a while back, I met a guy. To look at him, you think he's got it together. Nice looking, slender, neat guy, well dressed. This guy looks like he's doing good. And I just met the fella, and it wasn't long into the conversation, he was telling me how he couldn't accomplish anything in his life, and he felt so inferior and so incapable. And I couldn't believe it. I said, I don't understand where this is coming from. I said, you look like somebody that, has got it together. And I said, and I think you're way better than you think you are. But he just couldn't see it. It was so sad to me that someone that obviously had so much in them in their life couldn't see that and felt so negative toward themselves. How many know we need to try and encourage people like that? We may not be able to, but we need to try. Isn't that right? And there are people, they're shaped by our own energy coming forth. If it's negative, they tend to adopt the same posture toward us because that's what we're giving them. Our view of ourselves shapes the view of others. So we need to embrace our flaws, cherish who we are, every bit of it, and recognize we're going to get better. Turn to your neighbor and say, I'm super good, but I'll get better. Yeah. We need to learn to flow with who we are. And therein lies tremendous blessing when we flow with the universe, the Tao, catching a hold of that flow, determining to stay in that zone. And we find enormous growth in life. Stand with me if you would. We want to, in our affirmation today, we couldn't improve on using these things Lao Tzu has urged us to embrace. Stand with me if you would. Let's affirm this together. Repeat after me if you would be so kind. I let go of ego. I embrace humility. I do not rush things. I embrace change. I am thankful for what I have. I accept my flaws. And I flow as life flows. Dance with me. All right. Bless you. You can have your seats. Thank you.